Welcome back, everyone, and a special hello to any new listeners joining us. Today's guest is Taylor Kelner, the founder and owner of Cowgirl Market and Top Hand Media, as well as the Director of Communications and Youth Activities for Santa Gertrudis Breeders International. What started as a creative project has grown into multiple thriving businesses rooted in agriculture, entrepreneurship, and a genuine desire to help others succeed. In this episode, we have an honest conversation about building a business, characteristics to look for in the people you surround yourself with, recognizing your strengths and weaknesses as an entrepreneur, and learning how to build a team that works with you, not just for you. From taking leaps of faith in both business and life to creating opportunities for small businesses and Western entrepreneurs to thrive, Taylor's story is a powerful reminder that some of the biggest rewards come from trusting the process and staying true to your purpose. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us today. I've been looking forward to having you on because for a very young woman, you have a plethora of experience and a wealth of business and life wisdom. So before we get started, I realized recently that as much as I preach the importance of networking and the different guests that we have on, talk about it's not what you know, it's who you know, I have done a very poor job of actually sharing with our listeners how my guests and I met in real life. And so apologies to our listeners out there, but I honestly feel like our story is about as classic stock show industry as it gets. So before we dive into your background and career, I thought it'd be fun to start there. From what I remember, we first met in a staging line in Fort Worth at the replacement show. I think they called it Cowgirls in Cowtown. But I'm curious what your version of the story is, and just because I feel like everyone kind of remembers things differently.
I remember us being in the staging line. I'm from Arkansas, so when they did the replacement show, they opened it to all states, and some of my best friends showed in Texas. They were like, you absolutely have to go. So we signed up and went. We had never been in a staging line before. That's not a thing in Arkansas. So I remember us like being in the truck. My brother's 10 years younger than me, so he was really young, and I remember my dad getting out and he just starts talking to this random man who turns out to be Riki's dad in the staging line. And I remember my mom saying, "Oh my gosh, your dad has made a friend in the staging line." And then I get out to give my heifer some feed. We had an Angus heifer in the trailer, and I started talking to Riki, and we just kind of hit it off through the wonderful world of social media. We've been able to keep up with each other over the years, so that's been a real blessing. I think that people focus on such bad things about social media, but I saw Riki in 2020 and haven't seen her since then, but we've been able to kind of keep up with each other's lives through that.
So you mentioned that you grew up in Arkansas. What was your upbringing and connection to agriculture like?
So I am a fourth generation cattle producer. Actually, hold on. I'm a fifth generation cattle producer on both sides of my family in Arkansas. My dad's family grew up row cropping in my hometown of Southwest Arkansas, and my mom grew up on a cow calf operation in North Central Arkansas. So, very much in agriculture generations before I was born. And I'm very proud of that, very happy that I have that upbringing. But now my parents have a cow calf operation in Southwest Arkansas, and my mom raises farm to table beef. My dad is the agency manager and an insurance agent at our county's Farm Bureau. And I grew up showing Angus cattle. So, very involved in agriculture. I think the first time I checked cows was at 3 days old.
That's awesome. Sounds like you were definitely immersed in it in several different ways. So great that you had that upbringing, and I'm assuming that's probably what led you to pursue degrees in agriculture and really just to take the industry head on with your career. So, as an Arkansas girl, why did you choose Oklahoma State over staying in state for college?
I knew that I wanted to be an agricultural communications major, and that degree is not offered in Arkansas. University of Arkansas has a version of that degree that includes technology and leadership, but I am one of those all or nothing people, and I wanted to go to a school that offered the very best of what knew I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and Oklahoma State offered that. I also had several friends who showed Angus that were there when I started or had gone there. And so it just felt like the right place for me. Actually, my first day of class, I knew at least one person in all of my classes from showing and just being involved in the agriculture industry.
That's a great point that you make. Sidebar, of course, yes, Oklahoma State is definitely one of the top schools in the nation for agricultural communications degrees. So awesome that you were able to pursue your education there. But I love that you mentioned how you knew at least one person in every single class. I was actually talking to my mom the other day about my little sister's involvement in different activities through 4-H and our breed associations, and that was kind of one of the benefits that I was telling her was that, when I came to Texas A&M, it was a huge culture shock. But because of my involvement, I knew so many people in a bunch of the different organizations and classes that I was taking. So definitely get involved now. To all of our listeners out there, it might seem mundane or you might not be super interested in the activities and the leadership contests and things like that, but there are so many long-term benefits of those contests and those activities that you really don't notice until you experience them later down the road. So thank you for mentioning that, Taylor. But you spent 4 years, if I'm correct, at OSU.
So I spent 3 years at Oklahoma State. So kids that are listening, if you want to save on college, take concurrent credit classes when you're in high school. I took 36 hours and they were all free.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite the opportunity. So I'm assuming you do those concurrent classes through a community college near your high school?
So Southern Arkansas University is our local university. It's in the next county over from where I'm from. My dad and my uncle both have degrees from there, and they started a wonderful program. They're an accredited university. They started a wonderful program where they offer free college classes to local high schools, and they're online. They have adjunct professors. I'm pretty sure that's the correct word, is adjunct professors that teach those classes. So I actually had wonderful college professors when I was a junior and senior in high school. I am glad that I did not take more classes because I felt like 36 hours was a sweet spot where I got my basics out of the way. I shaved an entire year off. And when I got to college, I will just be very transparent with you and everyone listening. I'm horrible at math. I was able to take trig and college algebra while I was in high school with a fabulous professor that I actually knew personally. And I was able to have my high school math teacher and other support while I was there, and not going through the stress of your first year of college and different things like that, and trying to take a math class that I was already pretty certain I was going to struggle in. So that was kind of the nice part about it. And it was free. And all of those credits seamlessly transferred to Oklahoma State. They have both universities have wonderful kind of transfer departments. I wasn't necessarily a transfer, but I did need to transfer some credits. So they were great to work with. And I feel very blessed that I was able to not pay for a whole year of college.
Yeah, that's an awesome experience and way to go about. I think it's definitely gaining popularity, and especially with students that, already know what they want to do for their career, or if they're wanting to go on to med school or grad school or law school, shaving that year off can be very helpful in that pursuit. But at the same time, like you mentioned, it's also super helpful to just be aware of your strengths. I know, like myself, I'm not very much a science girl. So I lucked out and was able to get a bunch of credits for taking the AP biology test in high school. So just looking at the different options that you have available to you at whatever school you end up at can definitely benefit you in the long run, so that you're not having to take those super hard courses in the subjects that you're not good at or you don't enjoy, and additionally having to pay a bunch more for them. So thank you for pointing that out. But while you're at OSU, did you have any mentors or experiences that shaped your goals and kind of your career direction into entrepreneurship?
So many. So I think that I counted it up about a year ago, and I could count on my hands like my immediate family that is not self-employed. And that's including like great aunts, second, third cousins that are not self-employed. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So I've definitely grown up in entrepreneurship, self-employment, starting a business, and just kind of working for yourself, which is an experience that not a lot of people can say that they have. And it's definitely influenced me to want to pursue my own goals outside of a 9 to 5 job or different things like that. So when I was at Oklahoma State, I had dozens of excellent mentors. Every professor that I had there, I can say, and I don't think many other people can say this, every single professor I had at Oklahoma State was excellent. I really didn't have an experience with a professor that I can say was horrible. The professor that I had definitely left their mark, like on the way that I think about things in their class or the things that they would talk about. All of the AgCom professors definitely encouraged me to pursue self-employment. During Cowgirl Market Stillwater last year, so in 2025, I actually had make some desserts and I took them by to the AgCom office. They have kind of a suite that all of their offices are in, and I took those by there for all the professors and the students to come by and get during the day. And all of them told me that they were so glad that I'd come back and that they really believed in me. So that was something that I definitely carry with me whenever I think that, okay, I've really bit off more than I can chew. But Dr. Cartmel and Dr. Riggs and Dr. Settle and Dr. King and Dr. Legg all told me that they believe in me, so I should believe in me too. And it's just different mentors like that that push me to excel and to be my best. I also had a roommate my last year of college. She was getting her master's in AgCom. She graduated with her master's the same year I graduated with my bachelor's. And since then, we've become great friends. We were great friends when we lived together. She lives in Nebraska now, so we don't get to see each other much. But whenever I think of like someone who was not really a mentor, but more of just a really good friend that would help me do anything, she's the one that encouraged me to pursue Cowgirl Market and College Station. I really feel like, you know how you were just meant to be some places sometimes? I feel like I was just meant to be at Oklahoma State, and I was meant to have all these wonderful professors, and I was meant to meet the friends that I did there. So I don't know if that kind of answers your question, but plug for Oklahoma State and really just engrossing yourself in the people around you. And even if there's a professor that you don't particularly enjoy their class, I always tried to find the good in their lessons and the good in that professor to see what I could kind of take from them and their life story and their lessons in the classroom.
Taylor, that is such a beautiful perspective that you have on approaching relationships and mentorship. And like you mentioned, you might not always get along with everyone and all your professors, but you can always learn something from those around you. And looking for the positive, your paths were crossed for a reason. So look for that reason and that good, because people can grow you, people grow each other. So thank you for sharing that. You kind of hinted at one of my favorite points that we're going to get to talk about in your journey, in which is Cowgirl Market. But to kind of transition us to that, did some research on your more professional journey. And so I've seen a couple of different places that you turned, quote unquote, something that started in your childhood bedroom, close quote, into a real business. So can you explain that?
So I'm going to have to back up to about circa 2018 ish. And this is going to be a long one. So, listeners, I just apologize for that now. So, when I was 14, 15 years old, I'd kind of decided that I wanted to go the AgCom route and go to Oklahoma State. I'm very much a type A. My fiance calls me type AAA or type AA because it is the truth. I'm a planner to my core. I love a spreadsheet. I love a list. And I'd kind of decided then that I wanted to go to Oklahoma State, pursue an ag comm degree, and probably do something within the cattle industry, but I wasn't necessarily stuck on staying in agriculture. I just knew that I really love marketing, sales, communications. So I bought a camera. It was a Nikon D7500. I still have her in my camera case. I probably will never get rid of her. But I bought that camera with the idea of that, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to kind of start now, figuring some things out. So I did some family sessions. It was called Rome One Ranch Photography. That's the name of my family's cattle operation in Arkansas. And I decided that that was what I was going to do for a little bit, and I quickly figured out that I'm really not a good family photographer. I really didn't love it when kids ran around. And I was like 15. My clients were picking me up at my house and driving me to their sessions. So quickly figured that out, that I'm not necessarily a family photographer. I loved the families I worked with, but I kept seeing horror stories of these people that they didn't show up on time. They didn't pay their deposit. They didn't do all of these things. So I was really excited to kind of pursue different goals, thought that I maybe wanted to do some livestock photography, different things like that. And I renamed my company probably when I was 16 or 17, Top Hand Media. That's the name that it is now, and I'll kind of get into that more later. During 2020, in the height of COVID, I opened an online boutique called Branded TK, was very successful with that, very much enjoyed it. I took it to every stock show, jackpot show, event that I could come across for those 4 years. So from 2020 till spring of 2024, I moved it to college with me. I actually, going back to meeting those people around you and networking, my first friend that I made at OSU that I did not know before, her name's Katie. We met in an AgCom class. She came in late and asked if she could sit next to me because there was an open seat. Of course, I said yes. And now she's going to be the wedding photographer that we have in September. And so that's fabulous. But her sister was supposed to come to Oklahoma State and decided not to, but she'd already rented a room. And my boutique was outgrowing my dorm room my freshman year. So this would have been in fall of 2022, and I ended up renting that room in her house in Stillwater for the rest of that year. I housed my boutique there. It was absolutely fabulous, kind of discovering that work-life balance that people talk about. And I was able to move it there, moved my boutique back home during the summer, worked on it, and then in my house in Stillwater, we called it the Taylor room. It was my office / boutique room. And then I had some really good opportunities with my marketing company, with a good internship, different things like that, that I decided to kind of phase the boutique out and sold all of the merchandise. So that was a little bit sad, but it led me to bigger and better things. Kind of going back on that, in fall 2023, I decided that I needed to be able to sell in person somewhere because I was doing pop-ups at my house, but I was not a huge fan of people just coming to my house, knowing where I lived. I thought that was a little weird. So I didn't want the commitment of a storefront. And I decided that I wanted to do some type of pop-up that was kind of its own independent event, but I really couldn't afford anywhere without having other people go in with me. So I presented this idea to Jordan and Nicole that worked at Visit Stillwater and kind of just asked like, hey, what can I do with this? I have this idea. I want to do these things, but I don't really know what to do. So Nicole took me on a tour of different places in Stillwater on, I believe, a Thursday morning in August 2023. And we decided that the Payne County Expo Center during the Oklahoma State Collegiate Rodeo called the Cowboy Stampede would be kind of my best bet. And let me tell you guys, Payne County Expo Center really took a chance on me wanting to host a shopping event for 2 hours on a Thursday night. That sounds wild, but that's how Cowgirl Market started out. We had 18 vendors there, including my online boutique, and it was fabulous. People loved it. And my boutique made the most sales that night that I'd made in any single day the entire time that I had it open. I did all of our marketing and promotions and that type of thing, and was so excited that I was able to do that. So that was in fall and spring. I shut the online boutique down. I had a really good internship that summer with a cattle breed association as their communications intern, and had a really good time with that. So I wanted to kind of give that my full focus. After that internship was over, kind of dove into Top Hand Media. I had my freshman year of college, I'd kind of taken some more clients in and taken the business a little bit more seriously, but I was seeing that it was really started growing. So my second year of college, I was able to kind of take that a little bit more seriously and plan Cowgirl Market, not in 2 months, because the first one was August to October. So very quick. And then I was able to kind of put more on it and put more into Top Hand Media and Cowgirl Market in my second year of college, which was absolutely fabulous. And Riki, I feel like that's kind of where I need to stop so we can get into some other questions so I don't give too much away.
Yeah, well, that was a great background, and thank you for sharing the really how kind of it all got started. I think that it's a great insight for any of our listeners out there that have ideas or have businesses that they want to start or events that they want to start. I think it's a big inspiration. Find someone you can ask. It might not be someone doing the exact same thing that you want to do, but a lot of people want to help others and have experience and insight into different industries. So don't be afraid to ask for help and ask for guidance, just like you did, Taylor, with the folks over at Payne County Expo. I'm assuming they had quite a big impact on you, and you'll never forget your roots in the Cowgirl Market side of things. So that was wonderful. So we kind of talk a little bit about how you got started, and you grew up with a lot of entrepreneurs in your family. So it wasn't ever anything super new to you. And I'm sure you were able to fall back on advice or seek advice from your parents and your extended family. So for our listeners out there that maybe didn't have that same upbringing or were not as exposed to entrepreneurship, that can feel like a huge leap of faith. And so I'm curious how you handled or what your perspective is on handling moments where taking that leap of faith is absolutely terrifying and uncertain.
Every time that I start a new Cowgirl Market, I have this scary, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm going to do this. Is this going to work out? So don't think just because someone's a seasoned entrepreneur that they don't have these thoughts, because they are most definitely there. For me, they're there all the time. Every time Top Hand Media hires someone or we take on a large client, things like that, it happens all the time. So you just have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to be willing to work really hard. So if you're willing to work hard, you can pretty much make anything happen. Put a pen to paper, make sure that things financially are going to work out. If you're willing to work hard and really put in the effort, and by work hard, I don't mean a couple hours every day, because I work a lot more than a couple or a few hours every day. That a lot of the time looks like answering emails on the weekends on a Sunday night at 8:30 when someone that wants to come to a Cowgirl Market has a question, just being accessible. So I think with good customer service and a lot of hard work, you can pretty much, for the most part, make anything happen.
Right. That's a good point. It definitely takes a lot more behind the scenes work than most people are going to see or recognize from the outside looking in. All of these businesses and things that you've got going on definitely didn't happen overnight. Trying to think of that one saying that has kind of gone around with the success mentality. I think I've seen it on Instagram, is something along the lines of hustle in silence and your success will speak for itself. So I think that's definitely, your story is a testament to that. And like you said, you're passionate about these topics or about these businesses. And so I bet at times it doesn't bother you to work hard and to work late or to work on the weekends, because it's something that you're passionate about and you want it to grow and be successful. So if that's how you feel as our listeners out there, if you have those same feelings, let Taylor's story inspire you. So for those of our listeners that might have business ideas, what advice would you give someone who feels called toward a dream but is afraid to start?
I would first make sure that it's actually a dream that you want to pursue long term, and it's not just you wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm going to open a boutique," because I did that and I did it for 4 years. So I'm definitely I think they call it a serial entrepreneur, where I kind of wanted to have my hand in everything, and now I want to be a little bit more niche down. As you get older, a work-life balance will be a little bit more important as you start to think about marriage, having kids, and just wanting to be able to go places and do things, especially when your friends don't all live in the same town anymore. I've said very many times over the last year, I graduated May 2025, and I've said very many times, oh, this would be so much easier if we all lived in Stillwater still, because lots of the girls that work with me, we met in college. So make sure that it's something that you're actually invested in and that you've done your time and research before you start this. Look at industry statistics. How long are these businesses staying open? What is going on with these businesses that are closing in this industry that you want to be a part of or you want to pursue a career in? Are you doing this to make profit? Are you doing this because you want an outlet? He thinks that you should have the best profit margins when you own a business. To me, if you either have a business to have some type of outlet or to have some type of hobby, I would not call myself a hobbyist. I would call myself a girl, because I love a business. I love to work. But I would do kind of your due diligence on doing background research of what am I doing right? What can I do right? What am I doing wrong starting this business, just to make sure that you have all your T's crossed and all your I's dotted before you even jump in. And then it takes money to start any business. Set yourself a budget. What can I get in this budget that I have? If I have $500 and I want to start a livestock photography business, what kind of camera and what kind of equipment can I get for $500? I just think that you need to do your background research. I feel like that's a lot of what people miss, and then they work so hard and get burnout. So kind of set some systems in place to help yourself not get burnout. If you don't particularly enjoy math and taxes like I do, hire a CPA, accountant, bookkeeper, something like that. You don't particularly enjoy social media, don't be afraid to outsource that to someone else. Just different things like that. Having some systems in place and some ideas of what you do and don't like at first kind of give you goals to work toward. Like, if I hit this sales goal, I'm going to hire this out. Some different things like that. So I would just say that if you have a good head on your shoulders, that you should be able to own a business, run a business, as long as you kind of get your likes and dislikes, what you want your business to look like, and some different things in place to make sure that you're the most successful version of yourself. But that would be kind of my piece of advice. It's not necessarily the traditional of you just need to work hard and be patient, but those are actually things that I wish I would have heard or that somebody would have told me before I started a business. And an old-fashioned business plan will not hurt anyone. It actually, Top Hand Media and Cowgirl Market both have business plans with 2-year, 3-year, 5-year, and 10-year goals. So don't be afraid to even write a business plan if you are kind of waiting to take the leap of faith, and let that help guide you. And if you have questions, you should ask someone, maybe not necessarily someone that's in your industry, but a trusted adult, like a trusted career professional, whether that's a career path that you plan to take or not, a professor, someone who is also an entrepreneur or business owner, different things like that.
Those are some great points, Taylor. And I think, honestly, something, not to give you another idea for a business, but I feel like that is information and advice that people would be willing to pay for. So thank you so much for sharing that. I kind of wanted to highlight, I think you really hit on some good points, really just research and reflection. For anyone wanting to start a business, market research is extremely helpful, like Taylor was mentioning. And then also looking back, like you said, what have I done right? What have I done wrong? What can I improve?
Hi, it's Rachel Cottrell, founder of Ranch House Designs. When I started RHD over 25 years ago, it was with one simple goal: to help ranchers build better marketing so they can have higher sales and more profits, and ultimately, more success. And here's the thing, our team at Ranch House gets what it's like to be in the agriculture industry because we live it every single day. We know what it's like to juggle cattle, kids, and careers while still chasing big dreams. That's why our branding, websites, and marketing strategies are built to work in the real world for people just like you. If you're ready to grow your brand, request a free consultation today at ranchhousedesigns.com.
You talked earlier about what inspired you to create Cowgirl Market and being a business owner, a small business owner and a boutique owner yourself. So aside from that, was there maybe a gap that you felt existed that Cowgirl Market could fill? And does that have any relation to the importance of events and spaces that support small businesses?
So I started Cowgirl Market for very selfish reasons. And looking back, I'm not afraid to admit that. I wanted to be able to sell my products in person. I knew that that was kind of where I was failing. People were coming to these pop-ups at my house, but it was mainly my friends because I was weird about giving my address out. But I realized I couldn't do it alone. So I invited other businesses to come in, and I actually phased my own business out because I loved doing Cowgirl Markets more than I loved having a boutique, which is very much the truth. And really, in the Western industry, unless you're going to a stock show or a rodeo and setting up inside there, paying the people that are putting on the rodeo or stock show, you don't really get that publicity like you would at other events. And really, the only other place is the NFR. And when I describe Cowgirl Market to someone, I say it's NFR shopping. It's Cowboy Christmas shopping on a smaller scale in different spots around the country. So that's definitely kind of our goal. I did realize that there was a large gap where these people had so many followers on social media, but their followers wanted to see them in person. They wanted to see their customers, and Cowgirl Market kind of gives a good place to do that. It also helps newer businesses get off the ground because there are those people that are coming there to shop. I know that at our Cowgirl Market in Stillwater and Texarkana, there are people that are buying Christmas presents there. So it's definitely a great place to sell and buy products that you may not find anywhere else. I've had a lot of really good feedback from our vendors, and I think that goes to show with that Stillwater is almost filled up, or by the time this episode airs, it could be filled up. And not necessarily that there's a gap, but I definitely knew that there was room for improvement from what our Western vendors were setting up at before Cowgirl Market started. I knew that there was a better way. I knew that the shoppers, if you build it, the people will come.
That's awesome. Such a great opportunity for those vendors. And just out of curiosity, what kind of vendors are you seeing the most of at Cowgirl Market? Or what kind of vendors do you accept?
So we accept and encourage anyone that feels like they're in the Western space. And we've had vendors that sell things like tallow skincare products, silversmiths, leather workers, boutiques that sell more boutique clothing, vintage vendors that sell like the vintage jeans, vintage shirts. I've bought several pairs there because I can try them on. They have a dressing room there. I could easily try them on, or run to the bathroom at the event center to try those products on. We have a couple vendors who will sell baked goods there, depending on what the event spaces rules are. But we have all kinds of vendors, and definitely encourage anyone who feels like they could be in the Western space or considered in the Western space to come and be a part of that. Most of what we see are Western fashion, like I mentioned, silversmiths, leather workers, boutiques, different things like that kind of fall in that Western category. But we have a lot of people who come that are not necessarily Western, or that's not necessarily their vibe, and they find pieces that they love there too. Some of our popular booths have been people can meet the silversmiths and place custom orders or have things customized. We had one silversmith vendor at Stillwater last year who she would take broken pieces. Like if you had a piece that was broken, she would take it on Thursday and she would fix it Friday morning, because Stillwater is only from 4 to 8 p.m. on Thursday and Friday. And this year we're adding pretty much all day Saturday. But she fixed some broken pieces for people there where they didn't have to mail them off and wait for them to come back. So just different things like that. We're definitely big on customer service to our shoppers, because without them, none of us would be able to be there. So we're definitely big on a good experience for vendors, shoppers, and having unique pieces to sell.
That's awesome. It definitely sounds like there's something for everyone. So I am looking forward. Taylor and I were talking before we started recording, but super excited that you're going to be in College Station this year. You've expanded from your original in Stillwater. I believe you said you're also going to Texarkana, correct?
Yes, so we started Cowgirl Market Texarkana last year. After I graduated from college, I did not have a job lined up, so I moved back in with my parents, and plot twist, I still live with them. I've been graduated from college for over a year, and I plan to live with my parents until I get married in September. So I grew up showing at 4 states, had a great relationship with everyone that works there, from the men that do maintenance there to the ladies that work in the office. And I actually posted on Facebook that I was looking for somewhere closer to home to host a Cowgirl Market, and immediately got a call from Miss Lisa in the office there and Miss Kristen that I should come to Cowgirl Market. I should bring Cowgirl Market to Texarkana, that they would love to have me. And it was very successful. I felt so blessed that, because my friends and family that live here that weren't able to come to Stillwater were able to come see Cowgirl Market and see what I'd been talking about for the last couple of years.
That's awesome. Such a cool connection there. And, like we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, the importance of networking. And again, I'll reiterate, probably in every episode, our listeners might get tired of hearing it, but so important to stay in touch with those relationships that you build throughout your stock show journey, your family ties, because you just never know what opportunities may arise later down the road, or how you can help someone out later down the road. So again, another testament to that. So great that you're able to expand to those 3 locations, and hoping that because of our episode, some of our listeners will be able to attend one of the 3 or more than one of the Cowgirl Markets in 2026 and beyond. So I want to kind of go on the flip side. You talked about it earlier. You've had a boutique, you own Top Hand Media, and then I've also, if I remember correctly, you have a MagnaWave business and/or had. So what were the original visions, just kind of behind, maybe just briefly behind starting those businesses? I know you've touched on it a little bit, but I guess what's your mindset in having and owning multiple businesses?
Sometimes I think my mindset is I just want to be as busy as possible, but I'm actually kidding. I used to want to be as busy as possible, but now as you age, things change. But yes, I do have a MagnaWave business. I don't do it as much as I used to, just because of, time constraints and that type of thing. So I mainly use it for personal use now, but once upon a time, I went to several junior nationals every summer. I would travel. If there was a junior nationals in Texarkana, I was going to it. I was going to try to book sessions there. If there was a junior nationals in Tulsa, my fiance's family lives really close to there, so that was an easy drive. I was going to do my best to be there. Absolutely a fabulous experience. Another great way to network and meet people. After a long trailer ride, pretty much everybody's calf, it needs, whether they know it or not, it needs to be MagnaWave. But I actually took out a loan about 4 days after I graduated high school, I think, to buy that machine. And I bank at our hometown bank. A kid that I graduated with, his mom is the loan officer there, and she graduated with my dad, or around the same time as him. So I had to explain what a MagnaWave was, why I needed it, and why I really needed the loan. So I'm glad that I bank at a hometown bank, because I feel like some other places would have just been so confused of what I needed that for. But I did finish paying off that loan about a year before I graduated college, or about the same time I graduated college, I believe. And I had such a good time with it. And I'm so glad that I have that tool kind of in my tool belt. It comes in really handy when you do need it. But I don't have it. I don't use it a ton now, like I said, just because of time constraints. But my mindset when I start a business is that I'm trying to solve a problem. So when I started an online boutique, I wanted to kind of solve a problem of how to have accessible Western fashion, because pre-2020, there were not a ton of online boutiques. There were, and I just didn't know it, but I don't remember there being a ton of online boutiques. I really wanted to do pop-ups kind of locally, and I had a really good time with that. Met a lot of people, made a lot of sales doing that type of thing. The MagnaWave, there was not a lot of people in my area that did it, and I knew that the machine would benefit my family and like the cattle in our show barn and different things very positively. The same thing with Top Hand Media. I knew that there were some gaps in the industry that I didn't necessarily see that I see now, that maybe I just saw when I was younger and wanted to see if I could kind of bridge that.
Wonderful. Sounds like you mentioned it, but identifying a problem that people are experiencing and coming up with the solution. And a lot of times that's how great businesses are started. So thank you for pointing that out. I want to kind of backpedal a little bit. You talked about it earlier, the term outsourcing. So this was actually something I did not learn until I got to college, really just what it was. I was aware of what it was, but the term, I had never heard it before. So you mentioned it earlier, and I think that it's pretty safe to say a lot of business owners are doers, so they struggle to let go of control, rightfully so. Their businesses are often their babies. So as someone who helps businesses outsource marketing while also outsourcing tasks, like you said, hiring a CPA in your own businesses, what have you learned about delegation? And is there maybe a point in business ownership or entrepreneurship that you realize you really can't do everything alone? So how do you go about delegation and building a team?
My dad, I very much remember this conversation of I was 16, had an online boutique, kind of dabbled in Top Hand Media, but it wasn't like necessarily a stream of income yet. Knew I wanted to buy MagnaWave the next couple years, and I was struggling with how to file taxes. 16-year-olds probably should not be in charge of filing a business's taxes in the first place, but I thought that I could do it. I thought wrong. And I remember telling my dad about this. I said, I just don't know what to do. And he said, you need to hire somebody for that because you are not equipped to file your own taxes. And I think that was the harsh reality check that I needed. And that was how I discovered that a CPA is the best thing since sliced bread, especially when you're bad at math. So that was kind of my first experience with outsourcing some things. And from there, it's just kind of evolved. My kind of rule of thumb is when you are not sleeping every night because you need to be doing X, Y, and Z, you need to hire someone for that task, particularly. You need to start there. And when you're a business owner, yes, you have to work some non-conducive hours. You have to work a lot harder than other people, but you should not be not sleeping every night. And I will just be very frank with the listeners out there. I'm a monster when I do not sleep. So the other people around me notice when I have not slept. And I'm sure that they're very appreciative when I started hiring things out. So last year when we launched our internship program with Cowgirl Market in Stillwater, it was because I realized that I needed help, that I cannot keep doing this alone. We have event interns that come in and help set up. We have a marketing intern for Cowgirl Market in Stillwater and College Station that help do the marketing for those events. And not only is it to give those kids a chance to kind of see event management from the back end or see marketing from the back end for a limited amount of time where they're not committed to a summer internship or things like that. Typically, our marketing internships are about 60 days, and event internships are only while the event is going on. So, a good chance for them. I have help, and I realized that I needed help and I could not keep doing that alone. And when you get to that realization, I call it the second step of business ownership, where you realize that you need help and you need to hire someone to do these things or to help you do these things. Same thing with Top Hand Media. Last year, after I graduated college, I realized that I needed Top Hand Media to grow, and it kind of just, it happened very organically. We have great clients, and I've now built a great team that helps me keep those great clients like a well-oiled machine, like I want a business to run. So build a team that works with you, not necessarily for you. Definitely a girl that works at Top Hand Media. Her name is Carly, and I hope that Carly listens to this episode. And whenever I don't necessarily know what the right decision for my business is, like maybe I want to hire someone to do a particular job, but I don't necessarily know who, or I have an idea for a client, but it's one of those ideas where it's going to go really good and they're going to think it's a fabulous idea, or they're going to be like, oh my gosh, Taylor, where were you going with this? I asked Carly. And so having people that you can not only delegate to and have work for you, but work with you. And I think that's where a lot of business owners kind of get in the mindset of, I need someone to do this task for me, but they need to do it exactly like I would do it. And I need them to do it with step 1, step 2, and step 3, and kind of micromanaging or feeling like not necessarily that you talk down to your employees, but you can lean on them for things. You can lean on them when you're having like some things go on in your personal life during that week. Say, hey, I have this going on. Can you take on this project that I'm supposed to be working on, but I just don't think I'm going to have the bandwidth to do that this week. But vice versa, they should be able to do that for you as the business owner. They should say, hey, I got sick, or hey, we had a family emergency. I'm not going to be able to get to this week. So just having that transparency with the people that you are delegating to will make all the difference.
I love the points that you make in that perspective of really building a team and not just hiring employees. You said it great. I'll go back and quote you. You said to build a team that works with you and not for you. I think that's great advice to any business owners or people, even just maybe higher level executives or managers of companies that are hiring others, because everyone has strengths and skills and connections that they can bring to the table that I guess you could say makes the pie bigger or makes the table bigger, because not everyone is the same and not everyone's going to do tasks and projects exactly the same way that maybe say the leader is doing. So great points that you hit on there, Taylor. I'm curious, we haven't talked about it a whole lot, but you are also the Director of Communications and Youth Activities at Santa Gertrudis Breeders International, or SGBI for short. So you currently are working in that full-time role and also running several businesses. So how are you balancing all of these moving parts? You've talked about hiring a team. You talk about, working non-conducive hours. So what does maybe just kind of like a day or a week in Taylor's life look like?
So before I answer this, I kind of want to go back about this time last year. So to give everyone some backstory, and I've shared this with several breeders, my boss at SGBI been absolutely fabulous in helping me kind of learn these leadership skills I'm talking about on here. So about this time last year, I'm on Facebook, as everyone finds their job on Facebook. And I see this job ad that they're hiring for a remote job, Director of Communications, Youth Activities. Sounds fine. I think I took a screenshot of it and really didn't think that much about it. Top Hand Media was doing really well. I was gearing up for a really good Cowgirl Market in October, and I had not gotten a couple jobs that I had interviewed for and really just didn't want to put myself through the disappointment again. I figured I'll try again in the spring and just see kind of what God has in store for me. So my friend Callie from college, that we were roommates, that I talked about earlier, texts me and says, I found a job for you. And I said, oh, Callie, I'm really not interested in having a full-time job right now. I don't really have any bills. I live with my parents. I'm just kind of seeing kind of what there is in store for me. And she texted me back and said, no, period. And it was like, okay, what do you mean? And she said, no, I found the job for you, and I'm telling you that you need to apply. And I will be very honest, I did not want to. I had no intentions of applying. And she said, if you'll send me your resume and cover letter tomorrow, I'll read over it so you can go ahead and send in your application. And I said, okay. And I told my mom, I said, did you see this job? I think that Callie told me I should apply for it. I'm really thinking about it. Said the same thing to my fiance. We were dating. He was just my boyfriend then. And they both said, oh, I think that you should apply for that too. And then my dad comes home from work. Oh, yeah, I think you should apply for that too. So I apply for the job. I am listening to people around me. I apply for the job. I would not call listening one of my strong suits. So that was a big step. I apply for the job. It was during their junior national. So I guess next week. Sure. And I didn't really hear anything back. Of course, they were at junior nationals. Get an email from the hiring committee. We would love to have an interview with you. I was so nervous. I have never been that nervous for anything in my whole life. Was on the interview with 3 really great ladies that I would call my friends now. They were absolutely fabulous, wanted to get to know me, had questions, and just made me super comfortable. So the SGBI hiring committee was absolutely fabulous. I knew that the association was going through some role changes, so they did not have an executive director then, and they wanted to wait to do final interviews until they had an executive director hired. And I waited and waited, and I believe sometime in August or September, I had this call with the executive director who actually used to work for BRC, and him, our board president, the vice president of breed promotions, and the vice president of youth activities. So I've come to know and become friends with all of these wonderful people now, but I was also so nervous for this interview. And I remember getting off of there, and I told my mom, I said, I think I bombed that. They are not going to hire me. I just talked. And I talked and I talked, and I really didn't know when to stop because I was nervous. So it's probably a week after that, I get an email from Keaton Dodd, who is my boss now, that says, we would love to hire you. I have never jumped up off of a chair so fast in my entire life. And I remember asking, am I still going to be able to do Cowgirl Market and Top Hand Media? And he said, yes, absolutely. I feel like you are going to be able to handle all of this well. We'll just need to make sure that we're still a priority. It's like, oh, of course, yes, absolutely, you guys would be a priority. But I just wanted to make sure that that was still fine. And I had Cowgirl Market I was in Stillwater Wednesday afternoon, Thursday and Friday, and Saturday morning. And then I drove back to my fiance's parents' house in Eastern Oklahoma on Saturday, got there mid-afternoon, drove back home Sunday, unloaded my car, and started my new job on Wednesday. I definitely fell in love with the breed and the breeders and how truly elegant like the cattle are, and just kind of the heritage that's there. So being able to work for a cattle breed association was definitely kind of on my mind, but I actually didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't think I was going to be able to work remote. I didn't want to get settled there because I figured I would get married in the next couple years after graduating. I knew it was going to be hard to put down roots somewhere, and everything just kind of fell into place. So I wanted to give that kind of backstory. So if you are a college graduate that's like, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, don't worry about it. tomorrow is going to come. A job is going to come. It may not necessarily find you, but someone may find you and tell you that you're applying for it. So that's just kind of my 2 cents, and I love to share that kind of background with people to not only give encouragement, but to show that there are things that you can be an entrepreneur and have a traditional 9 to 5 job. So I love my job. It has provided me with so many good opportunities and so many great people that are in my life. I think actually when Vance and I got engaged in January, I posted our engagement pictures on Facebook a few weeks ago, and I read through the comments and he's asking me who the people are. And I felt like every third person was a Santa Gertrudis breeder that I'm telling him about, like how I met them and what my relationship with them is like and that type of thing. So definitely a blessing in disguise. I'm very glad that I listened to the people around me and applied for that job. But kind of to go back to your question, Riki, I'm sorry that was such a long-winded background story, but I don't have a very good work-life balance because I am self-employed and I work from home. So sometimes if I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and decide, okay, well, I'm ready to hit the ground running, I will pour a cup of coffee and start work. So it definitely gives you a lot of time to do things. I sit at my computer for a lot of hours most days. I'll work during the day, and then after I come back in at night, I will kind of do some more work, answer some emails, that type of thing. But that kind of comes in with building a team. So Top Hand Media has a team, and Cowgirl Market has a team that allows me to focus on my 9 to 5 job and to go to our junior nationals for a week and not have any worries while I'm away of, is this getting done? Are we doing this? Are we on track on this project? Are emails getting answered? Because I've built a team that helps me do that. When we were at, this is a great example, when we were at NCBA in February, I was there at the Santa Gertrudis booth, and I told my boss, Keaton, I said, I have to answer this email real quick for someone who works for me. They need some direction. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky that I can go somewhere for my 9 to 5 job and not be stressed out about my other jobs, that I feel so lucky that I'm able to do this. So it's just things like that that you realize it matters who you surround yourself with, and it matters of what you're doing with your life. I find my job at SGBI so fulfilling, and I find Cowgirl Market and Top Hand Media so fulfilling as well.
Wow, Taylor, that was awesome. I personally, and I know a lot of our listeners enjoy hearing stories about how our guests are end up in their careers and in the positions that they're in now. And so I think that was a great time for you to reflect back and share with us on how you ended up at SGBI. And just like you said, Keaton is a great person. He was previously affiliated with the Brahmin breed. Like you said, he was at BRC. So I kind of got to know him through that. And then actually got to run into him at Cattlemen's Congress back in January. So super excited that he's in that role and that you guys get to work together now. I'm sure he's a great boss, and I've seen a lot of great things going on with SGBI with you guys, and the team that y'all have built there is awesome. So you also mentioned a couple of times your fiance. So you guys got engaged back in January. Congratulations, which obviously it's become very apparent that you're a very busy lady. But what is this season of engagement and work and life really just kind of looked like and been like for you?
Vance and I met in college at Oklahoma State, and it was kind of, my dad always said, yep, Taylor's going to go to Oklahoma and she's going to marry a cowboy and she's never going to come back. Well, joke's on him, because I did come back for a little bit, but I am going to marry a cowboy and live in Oklahoma, and I really couldn't be more excited. But when we met, we met on like during the week, and he asked me if I wanted to go on a date on Friday. And I said, well, actually I can't, because I have to go home to host a showmanship clinic. So I'm gonna have to take a rain check until after Thanksgiving break. And so he kind of got a taste of how busy I was starting out, but Vance is the most supportive. I see other girls talk about my fiance or my boyfriend or my husband does this and he would never allow me to do this. And I just can't say the same. Vance is absolutely fabulous. He's so supportive. I don't think he particularly loves Cowgirl Market because, well, he's a man and he doesn't love to shop. So that would kind of leave him. But he's so supportive when I have to answer a client's email while we're trying to do something together or we're on a date. He's very supportive of that. He also owns a construction company, so he kind of works some long hours, and I think that finding someone where they understand your schedule and that this is what you do for a living, that you're enjoying it. I think it would be a lot different if I didn't love all of my jobs and I didn't have great people to surround myself with. I do think it would be a little bit different outlook for him, but I love my jobs and he knows that I'm the happiest when I'm feel like I'm balancing everything well.
That's awesome. It sounds like you guys both obviously are very ambitious people and you're supportive of each other. And like you said, not everyone can relate to that. And that's not what everyone's relationships are going to look like. So if that's a type of significant other that you need in your life as a busy woman or young lady, an entrepreneur, someone that's very career driven, don't settle. Your person will come, and don't compare yourself to other people who might be in a relationship that maybe from the outside it looks amazing, but that's not always the case for the personal side of things. So don't compare yourself. And like Taylor said, it's very important to find a supportive partner if you do have dreams and goals and someone that understands you. So I'm curious, Taylor, you've given some great advice and insight for our listeners. But is there anything else before we wrap the episode up that maybe you wish more people knew about entrepreneurship, or maybe any other advice just in general that you want to share?
I've actually been thinking about this, and I know that a lot of young women listen to this podcast. So, probably my biggest piece of advice that doesn't have anything to do with being a business owner or wanting to be successful, but the relationships that you build are going to be the most important part of your entire life. You don't want to end up with a bad partner. You don't want to end up with a bad friend group. And so, what I would say is to pour into the people that pour into you. And if you feel like someone doesn't like you, it's probably because they don't. I wish that I was told that. My mom definitely told me that. But I wish that I would have kind of taken heed to that. And going back to talking about being in like a romantic relationship, pick someone that you're dating on the not necessarily what you think God would want. Actually do pick what you think God would want. Love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy, things like that. Pick someone who you can see you spending the rest of your life with, and when you're working till late at night, that they're not going to get irritated at you, because I can tell you that I know people who have not had that experience and that it has taken a toll on them. I tell people that I'm the worst person to get relationship advice from. I started dating Vance the beginning of my second semester of college, and we've never broken up, and I've never been treated badly. So I don't necessarily have kind of the traditional outlook on it that everyone does, but when you find someone good that you think you want to spend the rest of your life with, you do have to put work into a relationship just like you do anything else, a business, a career, anything like that. So put effort into things that you think are going to serve you well for the rest of your life, that it's not just something that, oh, well, he has a really good family, or, oh, well, he drives a cool truck. That is the dumbest excuse I've ever heard in my whole life to date someone. That is probably the best advice that I could ever give any young woman, or really anybody, to put in the work and the things that you think are going to serve you well for the rest of your life.
That is wonderful advice, Taylor. I couldn't agree more. So many good things. This is definitely going to be an episode that I will be referring back to and re-listening to probably several times a year, because you have just shared so much wisdom and knowledge. It did spark a thought in my brain, and it was a thought that I had honestly you've been pretty transparent with us. I thought of it in the shower, literally a shower thought, a couple of weeks ago, having just finished college and really transitioning into a new part of my life. But you touched a lot on the importance of the people around you, your friends, and the, your significant other. And it reminded me, I had this realization that a lot of times the most successful relationships, whether that's friends or boyfriend or girlfriend, are those that maybe not necessarily have the same goals in life, but the same values. And I've seen that in my own personal life. There's been multiple times where, there was a guy I dated in college and we had very similar life goals. He was a good person, but we did not have the same values. And those values are what decide the actions and the avenues you take to achieve those goals. So if your values don't align, whether that's with your friends or your significant other, quite frankly, it's not going to work out. And so really just do yourself the justice now of recognizing that. And if you don't have the same values as someone, I can't think of a nicer way to put it, but don't waste your time. Find people to surround yourself with. You're the sum of the 5 people closest to you, I think is something that some wise person said. So thank you for pointing those things out. And so I wanted to share that with our listeners before we wrapped up. So before I conclude the episode, we've gotten to know you pretty well, but maybe more on the fun side. I have a couple of rapid fire questions for you. So is there something that you can't function without during shows or, say, Cowgirl Markets?
Coffee, daily. When I sent someone a text several days ago and there was like a misspelled word in it, and reading it over, I'm thinking, I don't know where I was going with that. And they texted me back, really didn't think anything of it. And about an hour later, I said, can you tell that I didn't have my first cup of coffee yet? Which is a little embarrassing, but is definitely the truth. So probably coffee and my MacBook. It's like on their phone, I carry around a MacBook.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have a favorite stock show fashion trend?
Trouser jeans. I will never go back to any other cut of jeans. Even when they go out of style, I'm still gonna rock my 7s and my hollows.
Love. And do you have a current jam?
I'm really a podcast girl, or I have a playlist. It's called Turnpike Taylor. And it has kind of everything on it. Probably my favorite genre of music is like Red Dirt. Oh, actually, my current jam is On the Red River by Turnpike. That was my number 1 listened to song in 2025 on Spotify, and I feel that it's going to be in the top 3 for 2026.
That is a good one. I do have to say, I hadn't listened to it until a friend of mine from Oklahoma was like, this song is so good, I love it. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I listened to it myself, and it is very catchy, great storyline. So for our listeners, go check it out after this episode. So lastly, Taylor, where can our listeners find you? Do you have social media?
I do. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook for Cowgirl Market and Top Hand Media. On Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, we're at Cowgirl Market, and then Top Hand Media is at tophand.media. And then my personal, I can be found on, I don't hardly post on TikTok, so probably don't follow me there. Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, my username is at Taylor Kelner.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Taylor, so much for joining us today. You shared a lot of powerful reminders that success rarely comes from having a perfect plan. Rather, it comes from being willing to start, trust the process, and stay grounded in your purpose along the way. Through entrepreneurship, faith, and community, she's built businesses that not only reflect her creativity and work ethic, but also create opportunities for others to grow and succeed. Whether you're chasing a dream, navigating uncertainty, or simply trying to take the next right step, her journey proves that sometimes the biggest leaps of faith lead to the most meaningful outcomes. With that, be sure to follow our page and join our group on Facebook, where you can get updates about the podcast, ask questions, and even share motivation with other young girls and women in the stock show industry. Until next time, sisters, this is your co-host, Riki Nardiello, and I hope you have a fabulous week.